Welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. In this episode, we're diving into India's top travel credit cards for 2025.
If I were to get my first card today, and if I was 10 years back in my career, I would still get the Atlas as my first card. It's a no brainer.
All of us are fanboys of the Platinum Travel because that kind of gives you 50,000 points over a 4 lakh spend, which are highly lucrative.
This is the sweet spot for Magnus Burgundy. If you have, let's say, 3 months even in the year where you can spend up to 3 lakhs a month, this is the perfect card for you.
You cannot ignore Axis simply because we all love Accor. And therefore, we want to accumulate our Accor stash. And the only efficient way today to do that is Axis.
So based on how strong your redemption game is, your risk appetite in your spending game, that 1% surcharge, will be more easier to you because you know that the value you will be extracting in your redemption will be far more than what you're paying here.
The biggest advantage of the Axis ecosystem is the number of travel partners that they have.
Infinia points are great for those who just want a no-nonsense experience. You want to book economy tickets, you want to book tickets worth 10,000 rupees, go to the SmartBuy portal, use your points for cash, finish it out, you get 1 rupee a point. So you can't do that on Axis.
If you're listening and you don't have a travel card in your portfolio, get the Atlas and then get the Amex Platinum Travel, or get both. If you want to spend less than 10,000 rupees and get 2 cards, this is the 2 cards that you should have.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow. All aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Zero to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.
It's 2025. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. In this episode, we're diving into the ultimate travel enablers, India's top travel credit cards for 2025. Whether you're an economy traveler aiming for an upgrade or someone chasing those luxurious first class suites, these cards can make it happen. From earning massive sign up bonuses to unlocking elusive perks like lounge access, hotel upgrades, and more. These cards are your gateway to this world of infinite possibilities. Today, we'll break down the best travel cards, their benefits, and how to strategically use them to fund your travel dreams. We've got two incredible guests who will today elevate the art of luxury travel hacking. First up, Dhimant Negandi, co-founder of the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. You've heard his insights in our earlier episodes, and he's back with more gems to help you unlock the world of points and miles like a pro. Joining Dhimant is Ritwichit Mukherjee, a name that echoes through Namma Bangalore points and miles circles. Ritwichit has a knack for discovering redemption sweet spots that redefine luxury travel. I'll give you a quick case in point. His jaw-dropping sweet stay at Raffles Udaipur and an ITC Green Point spending spree that took him through some of India's most iconic properties. This man truly knows how to make every point count. And for all of you who don't know him, he's currently at ISB. Let me just tell you, he minted 500,000 points. Now, if you want to know how, you'll have to DM him, but I'm not getting that secret out this easily. So get to know Dhimant, that's your incentive. And let me just put it this way. He's got his travel plan sorted for the next 2 years. With that, gentlemen, welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show.
Thank you so much, yeah. Thank you so much, Adil.
Thank you, Adil. It's a pleasure.
This episode is going to be called Swipe Your Way to Paradise, the 5 best Indian credit cards to fund your travel dreams in 2025. So with that, let's get started with the first question. Let's set the stage. To set the stage, let's figure out what was the first big travel hack or reward redemption that made you realize the power of points and miles. Now, we all start with getting that first hotel night stay, or we'll do that first economy ticket, or we'll do that first business domestic ticket. But that's a good milestone, but it's not big. What I'm keen to know is, Dhimant, we'll start with you. What was your first big travel hack or reward redemption that made you realize the power of points and miles?
Yeah, I think Adil, we have spoken about it a couple of times, right? I think when you travel to the US a couple of times in economy, and then you hit your first business travel, right, or business class travel, it's when you realize the true value of what that luxury travel means to you. So being able to not worry about uh, you know uh, sitting like a potato on a seat and trying to spend that 19 hours in a flight is when you kind of realize the true value. So for me, it was taking a business class flight on Etihad and Lufthansa. I think it both happened in the same year, and realizing that there is a world beyond, uh, you know, uh, uh, just sitting like a potato, like I said, in a seat, right? So that was an eye opener for me, and that made me realize that okay, if I can do this more often, I would love to do this more often. And most of it happened via points, right? So that was my moment of aha.
Okay, so Etihad and Lufthansa business for the win. Ritwichit, let's come to you.
Yeah, so my case, I think you have covered the redemption that is there. But in the scenario was very simple. I was in the HDFC ecosystem. The whole way I got into this points and miles game was that I had this card called HDFC Regalia. And for me, Diwali ticket to home, if I can through 1 year of spending, I can get it for free, would be my, claim to fame at my home ki मैं free में आया हूँ दिवाली करने, right? And eventually, when I discovered this points and miles thing, the Taj vouchers started happening through Amex, right? And then when this Axis thing happened, and then when started that, okay, from the I was mainly in the HDFC ecosystem, right, where I would book the SmartBuy version of flights as well as hotels. But then this Udaipur trip that I did, right, which was 2 days at Raffles, 1 day at ITC Mementos, 1 day at Taj Lake Palace. For me, when I completed that trip, right, because till the time I was at the hotel, I was like, man, this can't happen, this can't be true. I mean, I'm not gonna get stayed. How am I staying at these properties for free, right? But then I understood, man, it's all about just not optimizing your spend, but also knowing where to transfer them and get the best value out of them, so that your points are working
Yeah.
for you as hard as you're working to
I added a
earn them.
lot, a little more color there, Ritichit. Like, for example, how many days did you do? You did 2 nights at Raffles. You're very smart about it. I remember you telling
Yeah.
me you booked a room for a particular category, booked a room for a particular category. Talk about why, talk about the points you spent, and talk about the value of the redemption so people understand.
Yeah, so I will send the whole travel redemption that I did. I don't remember the points exactly at currently right now, but I know it was a very sweet deal. First, I will talk about the why. Right, I had recently got married in 2023. Okay, and things were not good at work, and I had gone before for a trip. I actually proposed my wife in Paris. Right, so that trip had happened. So, but we couldn't go just after marriage to some place because things were not good at work, and I told her that okay, we were not going for a foreign vacation, but I so the vacation that we do in India is gonna be the vacation of dreams, which both of us would really love, right? And I had just started getting on the Axis game, and because of some spends which I had during the wedding, also it helped me accumulate some points. And I think Raffles had just started making waves, right? Taj Lake Palace was always on my mind, right? Because I grew up in Rajasthan, and I would go to Udaipur, and it would be shown to us like it's out of reach. Like there is the kings who stay there, and these hotels are out of reach for people who are from middle class families. So I decided that let me do a itinerary wherein I have seen the city, I have seen the forts of the city. Let me experience the luxury which the city offers, right? And that would be my taste to luxury. Before that, I had stayed in some good properties, but these properties was always on top of my mind. So I was just planning and how do you get the best deals. And at that time, Mementos had just opened up. I remember, I think both one of you only suggested me, right? Because I had first booked 2 days Raffles, 1 day Lake Palace, and other day Oberoi Uday Villas, right? But then I saw the Taj Lake Palace and Oberoi's Uday Villas will almost be on the same kind of lines. So let me do ITC Mementos, right? And that property, when I went there, I was like, you should have stayed there for more and
Yeah.
more points. And I got the property for 18,000 or 19,000 points at that time. And the best part about Raffles is, which I love about Accor, which Dhimant also has spoken about, is the everything. can be built to your room.
Yeah.
So I was like, when this vacation has to be in luxury, I had a Audi which which because that was getting built to the room. I was like, no one, we need an Audi to come and pick us at the airport. So because your vacation starts from there, so the whole vibe was that experience the luxury as
Yeah.
it is. And I remember the whole Raffles you're talking about. So we had booked the Oasis suite, right, which is, I believe, the best room I have stayed in till yet, and I have to explore a lot yet. But what I did was, I knew that these hotels are like very pinpointed on the experiences the guests are having, right? So I like, let's just do an experiment. Anyways, we are, by the time we enter the property, that's a win for us, right? Even if you're staying at the base room, that's a win for you, right? Because you are at that property. But what I did, first day I booked the normal room. Second day I booked the Oasis suite. And the whole idea of doing that was that they won't want to shift us in during our stay, and that happened. They gave us the suite upgrade, and 2 days we were at that Oasis suite. And I had written them a note that, the whole story about, we have recently got married. So when we entered the property, they had this TV and everything. We had taken some pictures from me. There was this music. So those personalized touches that they gave
I
was
I
something
can
like,
almost feel you've gone back there right now. Your body is here and your
yeah,
soul
yeah,
is
yeah.
there.
Every time I talk about it, it's like that only. It's like I remember it so
Yeah, yeah.
vividly. And
Yeah, I
beautiful
mean, no,
property.
no. We always say, like, I mean, we always have this fights with our, better half, saying, okay, none of the photos or videos can ever capture what we can capture in living, right? So, Adil, one thing I want to add here, right, and like, phenomenal to see and hear Ritach's experiences, right? But I want to like talk about another extreme of this, right? There is this India's aspirational class, right? And we all have been there at some point of time in our lives, right? So, because you mentioned ISB and the college experience, it takes me back 20 years to when I started my MBA journey, right? And I remember in the first year going and to my college via, the Rajdhani train from Bombay to Delhi, right? Obviously, it's a fantastic train, but in the second year when you took a flight for the first time, right, it didn't matter whether it was an economy or whether it was a seeing the airport, seeing those 100 rupee chai stall at the airport, to taking that first flight, getting down those stairs. Like, you may not be an AV geek, but that's a new experience. And my first redemption really was that, right? So while you spoke about luxury, but that was no less than luxury for me. Like, I just want to be clear that uh,
True.
that movement from a Bajaj Chetak to a Tata Nano is something which cannot be spoken about enough, right? So I feel a lot of our the people who have been reaching out to us after seeing our videos are still at that stage of their career or travel journey. And I just want to let them know that even that first economy flight is no less than a luxury experience. I mean, that's at least my point of view.
Absolutely agreed. I would say that, you know, anything first when you experience for free, right? Like, not free per se, but when you have accumulated some points and when you use it in the first time you redeem that, still remember the feeling that you get. Ki how is it that it's happening at points?
I think the learning from what both Ritwichit and Dhimant are saying is that, hey, it doesn't matter whether your redemption is small or big. The point is, figure out to make your first redemption happen. So if you're starting in your credit card journey, get your first credit card. Figure out a way to get, even though it's the smallest of redemption, get it and see if that excites you. See if that's something that you cherish, if that's something that you enjoy. Don't think about a vacation in the Bahamas from the first day, because that's not going to happen, because you wouldn't know the art and science behind it, right? Everything happens step by steps, and we all start, right? You all start in your journeys at point A, and then you got to graduate to B, C, D, E. So it's about climbing the ladder. So let's do that diligently, let's do that gently. But with that, let's get started. So coming to cards of 2025, let's get started with you, Ritachit. What are the top three cards that you will 100% have in your wallet in 2025, and why?
Um, so the first card I would always have is Axis Atlas for me right now, at least for my travel spends. Especially if you see what I was doing this comparison yesterday only, that if I'm booking a flight SmartBuy on Indigo, because Indigo has recently come for a loyalty program, right? So I think for that I was comparing that if you are putting in Axis Atlas using and booking directly via Indigo, so I think that gives you 10% extra rewards. Then you're, because you are directly booking through the portal, you will have 4 points extra. So I think Axis Atlas, for those reasons, I will always have. One is Axis Magnus Burgundy, because any spend that you do, base rewards rates are very really great. And because I will mention four cards here. One will be Infinia, because now with Vistara going away and our those sweet spots that we had are still not there. So I think Infinia for all the internal travel, and of course Amex Plat Travel, which will be fourth tier of which I think is the longest card that I have in my wallet. So I think these are the four cards which I will be having: Axis Atlas, Axis Magnus Burgundy, Amex Plat Travel, and Infinia.
Hemant, what is your take different? How you thinking about it?
Yeah, again, I think Ritaji's added some nice color to the cards, right? But I want to go just minus one here and one step back, right? I've seen a lot of people asking for recommendations, including very celebrities sometimes on Twitter, right? Saying, ki, what is the best travel card to have? And I want to just break the myth here. First of all, good travel cards necessarily do not have the name travel in their name. I think that's very critical to understand, right? Second, you don't need to have a travel card to let you travel. I think I want to break this completely to anybody who's watching this podcast, right? In fact, I feel the best credit card today that allows you to travel does not have the name travel, right? So Magnus Burgundy, I think, is one of them. I think it is the king of all travel cards today, I feel, right? And can't take anything away from that. But considering the fact that it's not easily accessible to everybody, I would say Atlas is the card to have because it's easily accessible, right? And obviously there is a platinum travel card from Amex that one should have in their pocket for sure. And the last one I feel is a card from the HDFC universe, preferably Infinia, but again the same problem, not easily accessible. So it's a little bit of a how do you manage the HDFC card universe, because Infinia is like where it is, but Regalia is a great starting point for somebody probably who is just entering the ecosystem, right? Atlas is better, but it doesn't mind to have a HDFC card as well. I mean, that's my take on the at least the beginning universe. Obviously, we'll break it down further, and we have some nice recommendations for you guys. But like that's what where I want to start at
That's
least.
good perspective, Dhimant. Thanks for sharing. Mine, like most of you know, all of us are of course card geeks, but I can't not have enough cards. Like I'm always looking. It's in my nature to have a lot of them, and therefore when I look at my cards, and if I'm looking at my
Yeah.
2025 spending strategy, I think it's spent at least across 7 cards. And I'll talk to you about why, and I'll share my reasoning.
Okay.
The first three are obviously Axis. You
Sure.
cannot ignore Axis simply because we all love Accor. And therefore, we want to accumulate our Accor stash. And the only efficient way today to do that is Axis. So, Magnus Burgundy, because every time you spend more than 1.5 lakhs in a month, your AEP kicks in, which is called accelerated reward points. And therefore, every rupee you spend after 1.5 lakhs, you're going to get a 14% return, which is insane. And while that continues, I think we should continue to milk the card. Second, like Dhimant and Ritwichit rightly said, Atlas is the name of the game. It gives you that extra stash of edge rewards, which is not included in the Group A limit of Magnus Burgundy. So if you want an additional Group A stash in Axis, then obviously you need to get an Atlas. The third one, which is very, very sacred to me for domestic travel, is what I call Vistara Infinite, which is by Axis again. Now we know that Vistara doesn't exist anymore, and we have Air India that's taken over them. Because of that card, a lot of us actually became Star Alliance Gold because we were Vistara Gold thanks to that card, and that card then migrated us to Air India Gold, and because of Air India Gold, now we get access to Star Alliance Gold, which is like a whole new perk in itself. And I enjoy traveling by Vistara or Air India. There is a way to decipher whether you can fly on Vistara planes or Air India planes by looking at their serial numbers. And I think if you can do that, then this card, again, for me, for domestic travel, makes a lot of sense. Obviously, then you want a card to juice your gift vouchers. And for gift vouchers, then there are three cards that hit the stable. So for gift vouchers, for all of you who are tuning in, you need to know most credit card enthusiasts don't travel as much to milk points. They use a lot of gift cards. So a lot of our payments, typically for electricity, for phone bills, for a lot of your broadband bills, utility bills, happen through Amazon. And therefore, you can buy Amazon gift cards. When you're shopping, let's say you're buying a Levi's pair of jeans, you can buy a gift card online. And for that, you can use SmartBuy Gifter, which is by HDFC Infinia, and you can get 5x back. So I think that's an important one for me. After the HDFC ecosystem, because there are caps there, you can earn 15K points a month, bonus points, and not beyond that. And you can earn max 7.5K a day. That means you also need an alternative if you're spending beyond that. So then you come to Amex. And then all of us are fanboys of the Platinum Travel, because that kind of gives you 50,000 points over a 4 lakh spend, which are highly, highly lucrative. Because I'm a points nerd and I love Amex points because their versatility. Two things: one, transfer to Marriott; the other, transfer to Emirates because I love Emirates. Then there is the Platinum Charge card, and you can't ignore them for their sign-up bonus. I got that card because they gave a 135,000 point sign-up bonus. But it's 1st of January when we're recording this, and today Amex has come up with a 150K bonus offer. So that 150K is incredible if you want to, spend that money and get that car. Of course, it's expensive at 78,000 rupees, but that amount of money can be deployed phenomenally if you have those 150K points. Can be amazingly, like, easily you can get your first Emirates first class redemption if you're planning through that. Now, there are ways and means you can happen. It's not, the points are not going to be enough. You'll also have to spend some money on revenue, but I have ideas on how we can make that happen. That's for an episode on some other day. But after the plat charge, to bring it home, one of my favorite cards again is the ICICI Emirates Emeralde. Why get this card? By default, on 10,000 rupees gets you a silver status. Beyond the silver status, if you spend 15 lakh rupees in a year on it, of which 50,000 are spent on Emirates minimum, but everything else can be anywhere else, next year you get bumped up to Emirates Gold. Emirates Gold is when you really, really get a high out of Emirates. Without asking, you will be upgraded. My last 4 trips when I have traveled from US to India, when I'm doing the Dubai to Bangalore leg, I've often been on economy or premium economy. Without asking, I've automatically been upgraded at the gate to business. And that to me is a remarkable value when you are like a Skywards customer. And then when you are Emirates Skywards and you also have the Skywards Plus subscription, that puts you in a very different league. So I went super detailed on this, but then
Yeah.
my top 7 cards for next year for my personal spending strategy. And everybody, please understand, it's different for everyone because our spending habits and our spending patterns are different. So my top 7: Axis, it's going to be Burgundy Magnus, Atlas, Vistara Infinite. HDFC is going to be Infinia. Amex is going to be the Plat Travel and the Plat Charge. And ICICI, it's going to be the ICICI Emirates Emerald. So we just your thoughts.
Adil, if you allow me, I would like to just, because you mentioned it's very different for everybody, right? Let me just, I want to put a small framework, the bane of being an engineer and an MBA, right? So I'm just going to put it into a small framework. And I feel if you put this framework from where you are, you may end up kind of carving out the right strategy for yourself, right? So uh, the way I feel is that let's put accessibility as one of the axis where you have low accessibility and high accessibility. The other end of the spectrum is probably saying that there are three type of travel cards, right? One is a generic card which has a generic currency of points, but they become travel cards just because they have travel partners as redemption partners, right? You then have specific travel cards which have a currency which is either called miles or a specific currency that is defined, right? Like Atlas, right? And then you have co-branded cards which are specifically tied to a certain program, be it an airline program or a hotel program. So if I were to just put it into perspective, the first set of cards which are like generic cards which have a generic currency but they are good travel cards just because they have great travel partners is, I feel, the biggest bunch where most of people will find value, right? The generic cards. Then there's these co-branded cards. If you travel in that certain specific airlines because of your work, because of your liking, because of your particular sectors or hometown, then that co-branded cards make a lot of sense, right? For example, there is a Vistara card. Now, if you're living in a city where there is no Vistara connectivity, obviously that cards makes no sense, right? And then there is this third set of cards which are specifically defined as travel cards. You end up taking those because you have a lot of travel, right? So in my head, I think if you put these two frameworks together, like which is saying ki, which type of card it is, and is it
True.
accessible less than 10,000, 5,000 annual fee, or is it like not easily accessible, either the bank does not issue it easily or the fees is too high, would largely define whether, for example, if I put this framework for myself, right, I feel that okay, a plat charge may or may not be a great fit for me, right? But
True.
at the same time, a Vistara made complete sense for me because Vistara is a Bangalore, Bombay is my regular sector that I fly for my family travels, right? So, like in my head, I think that's how we should look at the framework.
So I have like, because Adil spoke about plat charge, right? So that is this one card from last 3 years. I have been, deciding yes, no, yes, no, and it had always been what you mentioned, right? That okay, first year fee is there, you get those Marriott points, and I don't have my travel on Emirates and all. Generally, it's through miles which I do. I have always wondered whether it will make value. Okay, you will get those 130 points if you get that Marriott offer, that 30% off. But with Marriott also being so dynamic in nature, right? So I know that know the reward offerings where I can extract value, right? Like I know if you plan a vacation in Maldives, that the calculation of how much is per point value, it will break all the ceilings that we have kept for ourselves. But then still, but now with this app, because to be honest, I will tell you, for me, as Adil mentioned, he wants to have more cards and play around with them, right? So for me also, I remember when I saw the plat charge for the first time, and it connects back to the aspiration,
Yeah.
also keeps evolving, right? That card, when you hold that card, right, till the time I didn't have Infinia and all, so that card has always been something that okay, I have to get it. And now after B school, when I start uh, my job again, so I think I will maybe get plat charge also this year, just to
Yeah,
get
Ritachit,
those
I
one.
think I think that's a brilliant point, right? And again, sorry for being a little more hard here, right? I genuinely feel that if you're getting the card to see your name on
Right.
that beautiful piece of metal, right? And
True,
if
true.
that's one of the major reasons why you want to get it, I would say avoid it,
Right.
right? And
Absolutely.
if you genuinely can make use of the card like Adil has, I think he's been holding this card for I think more than 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think if you can extract that value out of that card, then it makes a lot of sense. But I want to believe that 1 out of 100 people will be able to make use of that card in the right manner. So I personally believe that I got the card for that reason. I wanted to see my name on that beautiful piece of metal, right? And I couldn't find a single use of that card minus the sign up bonus, which I could have not got from any other card, right? So the sign up bonus is the main reason. If you have a trip coming up where you can use that bonus in the right manner, if you have a Maldives trip planned, I think it's a no brainer.
My question to you is this. So I will tell you similarly. So the romantic in me will always tell me to get that card to see that name on that. And people have different kind of wins they have thought for themselves, right? If something gives you that pleasure, go ahead and do that. I've always believed that in life, right? That if an Amex plat charge in your wallet is telling you that okay, you have come somewhere from somewhere, right? If it's telling you about the journey that you are there, do that. But always the analytical mind, as you mentioned, being of an engineer and all that, you will always don't see that value here. If I'm not spending that, or if I'm not making uses of the statuses that I am getting with that card, it won't help. But coming to that point, I want to do that dream redemption one day of the Ritz Carlton or the St. Regis Maldives, right? That is something which I have in my mind. And for me, I look at like a perspective wherein those 150,000 points is effectively giving you a, if I'm not wrong, you get Marriott Gold with that, right? So the journey to platinum becomes a little easier comparatively. Because if you are not platinum and going to these properties, because Adil only guided me on this last year when we were having this conversation, that if you're going to Maldives, ensure that you are holding a good status with Marriott, then only you will be able to
Absolutely.
see those
Yeah, yeah,
that
agreed,
gig.
agreed. And hence I
So
said,
my strategy,
and I
my
agree.
strategy,
That's what my
yeah,
point is. If you have a trip planned to Maldives or any other such location where you can make full use of it, and especially if you don't have large spends to earn that kind of points, it's a no-brainer
yeah.
in my head. Like,
Because I will tell you honestly here, because I've been in B school, right? And the great part about ISB is that you have people with 2 years of experience and people with 20 years of experience also. Sir, you will not believe, you will not be able to convince them to pay for a card.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, that notion that a card will have a fee which you have to pay every year. 5% cashback is something which people are very not just happy, elated with. So the thing is, when we talk about, I was telling Adil also before we were having this conversation, that we think that we miles, points, and everything. There are people who are still taking that step, and unke liye, as Dhimant you mentioned, the first flight on miles or first stay at a hotel using Accor. That's why I tell them that if you even are planning to spend 7-8 lakh rupees a year, right? Get Amex Atlas first to start with. Start with that journey, have that one redemption, which actually makes you understand that whatever time you put in, right? Like Adil also mentioned about gift card, right? That you are in a Levi's, you rather than if you directly are swiping, you are getting 3% return on your Infinia, 3.33%. Uski jagah, if you are waiting for just 5 minutes, generating that gift card voucher, right? And there are people who come and tell me, no, no, we will not do that. It won't go to. मैंने कहा, then I get key. Okay, then then you need to first understand that the effort that you put in, that 2 minutes extra that you're putting at checkout, what it's gonna result into. So that's why I think the quality of the episodes that you have been recording so far, I like it. It's also catering to people who are doing those transitions in their life, right?
I think both of you covered really well. I think the first part is the month, what you shared about having a framework of where to spend and who it is for. I think it's very important. I think people should realize saying that, okay, if I'm starting my journey, I'm not going to get involved with too many cards. I'm going to experiment with one or two. And I'm going to see how these can help me. And these are redemptions that I'm eyeing, and I'm going to make those redemptions happen. That's year one, I would say. Once you've figured out this year one, that is when you can say, okay, now year two, am I willing to bite bigger? Am I willing to see if this thing that I have in mind is possible? And it also depends on what your hopes are, right? Somebody is like very happy doing one vacation a year, all economy, and that's totally cool. But then there are people who, like Ritwichit, who want to do experiences of a lifetime. Like staying in a suite in Raffles is like an experience of a lifetime. And let's face it, between the three of us, we would never pay revenue to experience something like that because it's outlandishly expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't give incredible value. Oh, yes. Will Ritwichit cherish it for the rest of his life? For sure. But Ritwichit, will you spend revenue on that kind of a property? I bet not, right? Maybe in a couple of years when he's earning a few crores, he will. But at this point in time, I'm not sure if he will, right? So I think it's about where you are, what you value, what works for you. And Dhimant is actually working on a very cool tool that we will release as part of the Great Indian Points and Miles show very soon. We will keep you posted when it launches. This will be a good framework for you to evaluate which cards to go for in terms of where you are with your journey. So I think as and when we build that
Yeah.
out, we'll get that out to you, and you all will find it very, very useful.
One card we have missed, I think, in all our three discussions, and today I think it's a no-brainer in my head, is an HDFC Marriott card. Like we were
Yeah.
talking about HDFC, and I felt that if
I
you,
wanted to ask you guys about that, to be honest, because I've not applied to that card because I was
yeah,
studying this year.
no, I feel that if you don't get an Infinia, rather than
Yeah.
taking a Regalia, get your
Yeah.
HDFC Marriott card. So I think there are two
Mhm.
things which you should definitely do, which we spoke about in the last episode. One is get the Accor Plus membership, right? It's
Mhm.
called
Mhm.
Explorer for a reason. Explore your first
Right.
Accor property.
Yeah.
HDFC
True.
Marriott is the same thing. It's basically a 3,500 rupee card which lets
Yeah.
you enjoy a property and explore what Bonvoy stands for, right? Again, you may not be gold elite, that's okay. I mean, go to, let's say in Bangalore, we have Mulberry Shades or JW Prestige. There are hundreds
Yeah.
of such properties in the country. Marriott ka spread is legendary, right? So, in that sense, I think that's one card I would definitely want to add it to the list, Adil. I mean, whether I'm going to ever swipe it or not, I don't care. I
Oh no,
want
like
that
that.
card just because of the free night.
HDFC mein, I was seeing that sometimes I am in Hyderabad right now. So ITC Kohinoor is a very decent property. Means it's a business hotel, but still it had the looks and the feels of ITC. If you want to experience it for the first time, ITC luxury, you can do that. And there are rates when I have booked it for 15,000 points. So I thought that if I had the HDFC at that time, I would have just got it for free rather than not I would not have needed to spend even 15,000 points. So that is one card which, I am
So
also having my eyes on. But the question I had for both of you, right, before we move to the next topic, is I know we interact about amongst ourselves a lot, right? But I want to know from you guys that do you know people who have kept plat charge in their second year and are keeping it for, third, fourth, fifth year also? And if yes, what's their use case? Like,
I myself have had it, Ritwichit, for 8 years now. I got it in 2016. And every year, what would happen is at the renewal term, I would call the Amex and I would say, "Hey, you know what? The fees have been charged for this particular card, and I'd like to see if you have any retention offers." And then they would come back and saying that, "Hey, you've been like
hmm,
I've been an Amex card holder from 2011." Not the plat charge. I had the
hmm,
corporate card when I used to work at Dell, and then I got my first card, which I think was the membership rewards. Um, so they say, "Thank you for being a member from
hmm,
2011. We appreciate your membership. Here's what we'll do: we'll give you X amount of points or Y amount of Taj vouchers." Now, obviously, the first thing that they say on call, don't buy it, don't go for it. Wait and say, "That's not working for me. Is there anything else you can do?" They'll say, "No, sir, this is what I'm authorized to do. But if you'd still like me to arrange a call back, I can speak to my specialist team and call you back." So they would do that. And luckily for me, until this year, until 2024, I was on a card with a very special fee. In 2016, Amex came up with an offer where they said you can have the plat charge for life for 35,000 rupees plus taxes. So 35,000 plus taxes would be 41,000, while
wow,
everybody was paying, I think, 71 or 72 or 66,000, whatever it was. I was paying 41K. And what would happen at the end of the year, for all those years, I ended up getting at least 45 or 50,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers back. If not, I would get a decent amount of Marriott points. So for me, it was a no-brainer because in my family, obviously, I want a card for myself. I want a card for my wife. So that's two. I want three more cards. I want a card for my aunt who stays in Bombay and she's solo. Her husband passed away, and I want a card for my parents. Now, these Amex Plat charge cards, all of them give you unlimited worldwide lounge access. Now, you could argue that that also happens with the HDFC Infinia, but my aunt and my parents are old. They're all above 65. There is this infinite amount of joy that they get when they go to the Amex Centurion Lounge in Bombay. And I know that I'm paying a hefty fee,
wow,
but I don't care. Every time they're at the lounge, they will FaceTime me and I'll say, "Beta, thank you. We're sitting at the lounge and we're enjoying this thanks to your card." Now, it's got their name on it, it's an add on card. But every single time they're there, the fact that they get served a la carte food is a different high to them because they haven't experienced this. And my parents live in Belgaum. They travel to Bombay often because my aunt is based there. My mom's from Bombay. They probably do 4 trips a year. They're doing this four
hmm,
times a year. So 8 times a year, think
hmm,
about it. They're doing this. And every time at their lounge. And then they cherish this experience. So that is something that I value in its highest regard ever. And once they've experienced this, then I churned them this year because when I called them, they said, "Sir, we can only give you 10,000 points and we can't give you anything else." So then I closed the card because it was not making financial sense. But then immediately they came with a 135K upgrade offer. I'm like, why not? So upgraded the plat travel to the plat charge. And then a month later, again got the plat travel because it makes more sense to have the plat travel, right? It's a no brainer.
I'm going to add a different perspective to it, and two perspectives rather, right? First, let me start with it may sound like a WWE match with Adil, right? Because I have very, very contradicting opinion to it. And trust me, this is not staged, right? Amex needs to do far more better than what they're currently doing. That's what I feel, right? First of all, there are only two Centurion lounges, I think. And like, there are times where I also felt very similar to what Adil felt, where I thought, ki meri family ko I'll take to a plat chart Centurion lounge, and they let them feel fancy, and there's a la carte menu and a lot of those stuff, right? But unfortunately, my almost all my experiences at the Platcha Lounge have been average. Right. Again, this is a personal experience that I have gone through. This would be a sample size of, let's say, 15 10-15 visits, right? So, and the food is average. For the kind of money that they charge you, I feel one, their lounge quality needs to be better. Number one. Number two, I think they need to have far more lounges than to just appeal to the Delhi and the Bombay crowd. I think, for example, Bangalore may not having a Centurion lounge is a bummer for me,
True.
right? So
Absolutely.
this is the second point I feel, and the third point I feel is uh, with 35,000 fees, it did make sense to a certain extent, but with a 69,000 which I paid, and now I think it's gone further even more. In my head, it makes very little sense. And Ritachit, coming to your question, right? So I feel again there is a like एक इंडिया इधर और एक इंडिया उधर वाला स्टोरी है, राइट? सो द पीपल हु रियली आर प्लैट चार्ज कस्टमर्स लाइक आदिल, राइट, फॉर
True.
एग्जांपल, they a lot of them actually don't care like about renewals and about retention. I can bet that a lot of people don't even call Amex for the retention offers. There are people who
Mm.
there's a cousin of mine whom I know, right? I mean, he's had platinum charge for the largest period. Probably would have moved to a Centurion now. I'm not sure. Those guys care a lot, less lot about the points, the retention offers, the miles conversion. One fine day you will open their account and like, okay, 10 lakh miles jama ho gaya, right? They are those customers, right? So a lot of the plat charge customers are like that, right? So maybe my guess is, and again, this is a pure play guess, I don't have any numbers to back this up. My guess is 20% of people would be like us, and 80% would be on the other side, is what I feel. But I could be wrong. But again, when I go to the lounge and when I see the people who come in there, I see a lot more people who are not thinking about the plat charge as a miles conversion tool. They're thinking about it as a, okay, it's a status symbol. I want to have it, because that's the card
Yeah.
that
I think
suits me, right? So that's what
Yeah.
I feel.
One funny story on this. One funny story on this. There has been an instance when I was in the Bangalore, didn't have the 080 lounge also, and I had a person uh, give Amex plat charge and asks that will this work? And I had to tell them, sir, that there is, I think in this country, there will be very few lounges where you tell this, take up this card and it won't work. So the amount of varieties that you will see. But one thing I want to also point out, Dhimant, I kind of agree with what all you have saying. But Adil, you should also talk about that Indian accent experience that you had recently, which would not have been possible through any other card, but only through plat charge. So I think that one, though I know it's very difficult to
No,
come by also.
no, Ritachi, that's what my point was. See, I'm aware about that, so we can
Yeah.
probably skip that part. But like, I've also attended a few of those sessions. Right now, there are two things. Right, one, it gives you experiences which other cards can't give. Agreed. The question that I'm asking myself is, number one, can Amex do a better job in India?
Yeah.
Right, again, from a lens of appealing to the top end of the strata who has spent 70,000. For example, uh, imagine how many percentage of people could actually attend the Indian accent experience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
90%
That's
couldn't. What about those 90% people? It can't be a lucky draw, right? I mean, it has to be either it is part of you being able to do that once in your entire anniversary year somewhere, some way.
Mhm.
Maybe a right way of doing this will be, will give you one pass to go to actually Indian accent and experience it whenever you want to in the year.
Yeah.
Then it's an
Yeah.
experience that I cherish, I value, and I can put a value to it. That's
Hmm.
what I would say.
But again, like
Certainty
I said,
comes
right?
in. Yeah.
All of us have feet of different sizes, and therefore we wear different shoes. Like Dhimant
Yeah.
is a fan of that Japanese brand. क्या उसका नाम Dhimant? Um,
Onitsuka.
Onitsuka Tiger, right? But for example, somebody else might like a Skechers, somebody else might like an S6, right? Because some people have pronation of feet. They could be overpronated, underpronated. Some people just like,
Hmm.
for example, Amazon Basics is a great brand where you got great shoes. So it really depends on what your shoe size is and what you want. Similarly, in credit cards, right? For me, the most
Mhm.
efficient way to earn Emirates miles today is not the ICICI Emirates card. The ICICI Emirates card is a 2.5% return. But actually, the Amex is a more efficient way for me to earn that. Because on international spends, you get 7.5%. You divide that by two, you've got 3.75% there, right? So I think it really depends on what you're looking at and
Yeah.
what is the utility for you for that card. So there are different personas that we have in the market. And what Dhimant very rightly said is this card is not for everybody. It depends whether you will extract enough juice out of that card, right? I have at least 2 trips to US every year.
Mhm.
I have at least 1 trip to London every year, and for that, I have this thing that I want to fly Emirates. I'm very clear. I love that airline for some reason.
Great.
And for long haul, I'll always prefer that airline. And like you know, I will never pay revenue fares for that airline. I will always book an economy ticket. Please understand that all these things do cost a certain amount of money. Now, there might be a card for 3,500 rupees. There might be a card for 78,000 rupees, which is a platinum charge card. Or that there might be a card called Centurion that you've got to pay 8 lakhs plus tax to get. Hey, if you can afford it and if you think you can extract enough juice or value out of it, go for it. But if you think there is this iota of doubt, refrain. Go for a card slightly lower in value, extract value from that card, and then when you have enough confidence, then go ahead and embrace that card and hit it for a home run. So I think that's the essence of this debate. Like Dhimant said, it was not staged, but again, like all of us have different tastes, different styles, different things you want to experience in life, and therefore we go for that card. But that was a very smart call out, Ritwichit. The HDFC Marriott Bonvoy card, that's number 8 on my list. I have that card and I will continue to hold that card for 2025 because how I used it this year was incredible. I didn't plan this, but it just happened by chance. I had a business trip to Austin, but because I wanted to fly Emirates, Emirates does not go to Austin, Texas directly. It goes to Houston, Texas. So I went to Houston, Texas, and I said I'll take a connecting flight from there. But I had friends in Houston that I wanted to catch up with, so I decided to spend a night. Guess what? 15,000 points, you get a nice Marriott property in downtown Houston, and the price for that was 3,500 rupees, which was the
Wow.
the fees of the card. So absolute no brainer. You can use it in India, like Demon said. In India, the sweet spot for that, in my opinion, is go to the JW Marriott Golfshire in Bangalore. It's a spectacular property. Points vary across the year, but oftentimes it's available for 23,000 points a night. For 20,000 points, they also throw in free breakfast for you. You cannot go wrong. Another one which is very cool, which is one of my all-time favorites, I recently went for this a couple of months back, is the Sheraton Mahabalipuram in Chennai. This is a property where you go almost always, you get upgraded
Yeah.
without asking. If you're a gold elite, they throw in free breakfast for you. And they'll also throw in lounge access if you be nice to them. All I had to do was politely ask and they gave it to me. So again, it is a very sweet deal. It's a beautiful property on the beach. They've got this lovely restaurant on the beach that you can sit in. If you enjoy seafood, man, it's a very, very different experience. So with that, let's move down. We've talked, I think, in this section, what we covered is we talked about maximizing sign up bonuses. The flat charge was a way for that. We talked about not overspending. Dhimant rightly brought us on track and said, cautious, don't just buy the card for the heck of it. Let's talk a little bit about now specific cards and how you can juice those specific cards. So I have 3 or 4 in mind. We're going to touch the Infinia today. We're going to touch the Axis Atlas today. We're going to touch the Magnus Burgundy today. We're going to touch the Platinum Travel card, and we'll touch the Platinum Charge card. After this, if we have time, if you want to touch more cards, we can absolutely do that. But let's start with the big one, which is what I call the golden goose of Indian credit cards today, which is the Axis Magnus Burgundy. Uh, Dhimant, maybe start with you. Talk about sweet spots. Talk about where to use it. Talk about where to avoid using it, and then Ritwichit, you can add in pointers that you feel Dhimant didn't cover, or if you have differences.
I think we'll start off with the place where it can't be used, right? Because it will give me more time to cover where it can be used, right? So, uh, taxes payments are out now, so you cannot use access cards to make tax payments largely. There was a large part of people who are using it for tax payments, so that's out. But Magnus Burgundy also now cannot be probably used for a lot of utilities, right? So utilities is a very popular category for swiping cards. So these are the two cards and two spends where if you have a lot of spends, Magnus Burgundy is not the right place. But if I have to max out the card, I think first way of maxing out it is probably identifying 3-4 months which have large spending patterns, right? This is so. Let me give some examples, right? You have your kid's school fee coming in March. We all know how education inflation has happened, right? And school fees today range from 2 lakh rupees, right? If you have that month, start off and sweet spot for Magnus Burgundy. On the first of the month, you spend 2 lakh rupees, and then the accelerated edge rewards points kick in, right? This is the sweet spot for Magnus Burgundy. If you have any month, and if you have, let's say, 3 months even in the year, where you can spend up to 3 lakhs a month, this is the perfect card for you, right? That's one sweet spot. The second sweet spot that I can think of is buying a large purchase like a car. Okay, this is a very sweet spot. I mean, I regret it so many times that जब मैं कार ले रहा था, when I wanted to buy a car, this card wasn't there, right? Even after 1% fee that you paid for the card using, you can still extract 13% back in miles with that card if you are in the accelerated edge reward points a month, which you will be because you're buying a 20 lakh car or a 10 lakh car, right? So that's the second sweet spot. The third sweet spot is, and I know somebody who's done this, there are a lot of new builders who are ready to take credit card payments for their house payments. They may take a slightly more higher convenience charge, which is 1.5%. But again, the amount of spend that you have, which is, let's say, 25 lakh rupees that minimum you would spend even as a first down payment, you would still end up earning 13% on a house. Like, can somebody beat this, right? So my point would be that before this goes away, make the most out of it. If you have a car buying plan even next year, like, try to pull it in if you can, right? That's one incentive for you to do it. And the last sweet spot which I can think of is situations where you have to spend certain unexpected things which you didn't kind of plan for. So it happened with me. I again hope it never happens again, but I had two operations that I had to get done for my dad, and both of them cost like 4 lakh rupees. So it's another point at which you can make something good out of it, right? So emergency expenses, when there's a sudden large expense coming in, bring out your Magnus Burgundy and swipe it out, right? One call out before Ritwichit comes in and adds more to this. Be very careful about the exclusions that Axis has, right? Always swipe a small amount, check the MCC code which you have described in one of the few videos earlier, and only if that spend gives points, go ahead and swipe the full amount. Otherwise, it's happened with me on car maintenance, for example. I spent 25,000 rupees, didn't get a single reward point because it counted as utilities or insurance sometimes. So that's what my point on Magnus Burgundy would be, Adil.
Awesome. Ritwichit, let's come to you. What are your thoughts?
I think Dhimant covered the sweet spots where you can maximize the earning, and actually Magnus Burgundy was the one which held the B school payment which I did for my fee, right? And now what was the workings for it is something which I'm not gonna get into.
Here's the thing. Based on what I know about Ritwichit, he's a very dear friend of mine. Whenever I've wanted advice in the past, when I am doing my trips to US, he's my man Friday. I'll always ping him, and he comes up with insane hacks. So here's the thing. So he had to pay a 20 lakh fee payment to ISB. Now he swiped the Magnus Burgundy here. The first 1.5 lakhs gets 4.8%. But every rupee after 1.5 lakhs gets 14%. Now you do 14% on 18.5 lakh rupees. That's 2 lakh 50,000 points and change above. And then he'll get a few more, which is 7,000 odd for the first 1.5 lakhs. So he's juiced out a net points of 2.6 lakhs plus. Now he's got a Japan trip coming up that he's going to do in April 2025. He's already booked his tickets from India to Japan and back. He's already booked all his hotel accommodation. Believe it or not, he still has miles left. So here's the icing on the cake for you. Ritwichit is that kind of guy who went for B school, paid 50, and I'm only talking 50% of his fees right here. 50% of his fees he paid via credit card. When he paid that 50% of his fees via credit card, he got an international vacation for free. And that's a nice way to say to your wife, sorry, yaar, I've been away with you for a year, but I'm going to make it up by taking you to Japan. How awesome is that? So think about ways like these. I think Dhimant talked about large capital expenditures. If you're buying a house, you're buying real estate, absolutely do that. The Mahindra B60 looks like an amazing sweet spot for those looking for that 20 lakh car. I think also when you're doing real estate, right, you can, and I've done this in the past, people have done this in the past. When you're negotiating, do not sign before you've completed your negotiation. So when you negotiate everything and the builder's not agreeing for a discount, tell him, I agree to your terms, but one condition, I'm going to pay the entire payment on my card. And you know what? I'm not paying anything extra. 99% of the times people agree. A lot of the big builders will push back saying that no, we can't. But you know what? They'll want the business and they'll come back to you. So be patient. Don't be over willing to, just sign on the dotted line ASAP. Learn how to negotiate. And if you want negotiating tips, there's nobody better than Dhimant I've met in my life, because I introduced him to someone. I thought I got a great deal. Dhimant matched it and he did it like a year later. And I was astounded, where nobody in the market got the rate that Dhimant did. So maybe we'll do a negotiation masterclass some other time. But sorry to barge you, to break in, Ritwichit. This was like a very important piece that I thought people could learn amazingly from.
No, but I want to just make it a slightly more nuanced. I did cover it, right? I said education inflation is extremely high today, right? And the joy that it gives you. I'll give you an example, right? So today, B school, it isn't easy to find uh, good jobs in difficult markets, right? So somebody asking, saying कि यार तुमको कितना फायदा हुआ MBA करके, like एक फायदा तो एटलीस्ट डे वन पे हो गया, like I'm just on a very lighter
हाँ,
note, right? एक हो गया, जापान ट्रिप तो फ्री मिल गया, like अब जो होगा
yeah.
होगा लाइफ में, that's a different point, right? So yeah.
So yeah, so it was really, so as you mentioned, Dimant, right, that when you know that okay, you have this card in your wallet. I was like, I didn't know this is something which kind of a hack I discovered, that there are other ways to pay your B school fees also, and you can use credit card. And the thing is, people go gaga over that 1% extra convenience charge that it was getting charged. I told them, first of all, because we had heard about this dealers charging 2.5-3% for the car buying thing which you are recommending. For me, 1% was my expectation, was anchored at 2.3, 2.5%, right? And for me, 1% was a steal deal, and people were like, no, no, this 1% is too much. I'm like, the 20,000 which I'm spending extra, I
Ritesh,
will be able to.
Ritesh, let
Yeah.
me let me ask you this question. Like, it's a very interesting question. I've always wanted to ask somebody. Uh,
Mhm.
my school, my college that I pay the fees for my kids, etc., they don't charge the 1% extra, right? That's
Mhm.
one. Secondly, even if there was no AP, right? We lived in the Infinia
Mhm.
world, right? And in the Infinia
Uh-huh.
world also, like if there was no 14% and there was a 1% charge that I had to pay, considering that the miles, the value of the miles that you can get out of it, I would even recommend for a card which doesn't have 14% to do this even after that 1%. And that's what my advice has been. If you value those 2.5%, so again, we have kept speaking about this multiple times in multiple podcasts, 1.8 का तो आपको return accord पे मिलता है, right? So
Correct.
imagine this, if you had paid this via a card which gave 3%, which is, let's say, the
Right.
Atlas, right? And it
Mhm.
didn't have AEP because you paid 1% and 3% return you got. This 3%
Yeah.
is still 5.4% back, 5.4% in rupees at Accor, right? So in my head, I think it's a no-brainer. And anybody who wants to experience this, education is a great way to start saying, okay, let me pay that fees. Don't end up paying other
Mhm.
people's fees, but yeah, definitely try this out.
No, no, वो तो फिर that then you are going on a different tangent. मतलब people who try to do that.
But would you do that?
But
Would
I
you do that, Ritachit? If there was no 14%, would you have paid that 1% and taken that 2.3?
100%, 100%. Like that 2% of that 18 lakhs is still like what, 30, 30.
36,000 points. It would be still 3 nights, 2 nights free in Accor.
आप ऐसे सोचो ना, you paid like what, 36,000 में, even if I live in, my parents are in Lucknow, so my 5 flights smart buy से ही हो जाता अगर, so for me that's a win itself, right?
Agreed.
And that is something which I'm getting just by swiping and using the right card.
Agreed.
And I understand there are people who will not get
Yeah.
get this
Hey,
magic,
so
right? That
Adil, just one thing before we move on to the next card, like two questions that I want to add more, which I think we forgot and missed, I think, right? One is, this is a very hard card to get. It's expensive, right? And that's why it doesn't make a lot of sense for everybody to latch on to this card. So other cards that we're going to speak about will cover that, right? And the second negative is, which I spoke about, is the exclusions. There are too many exclusions now. So
But Dimant, I'll tell you one thing, I'll tell you one thing. I've been thinking about this, what you're telling right now, right? That there are my friends who I became friends with after coming to B school, who are like 23, 24 years old, have worked for 3 years, right? And they came in here with having no cards, right? And now I am telling them that these are the cards you should be getting. But I was thinking, what if I would have been with the same knowledge, but not the right cards? Let's say I didn't have an Axis Magnus Burgundy at that time, so I still calculated, let's say, even if I'm paying that 7.5 lakhs, which today I get and correct me if I'm wrong, I've been out of touch in terms of knowing what the updates have been. but you get 2,500 miles, if I'm not wrong, as your signing
Atlas.
bonus for paying that
Atlas.
5,900 joining fee,
For
right?
Atlas? No, no,
Atlas. I'm talking about
oh,
Atlas.
you're talking about that. Atlas is a no-brainer.
I will tell you.
Atlas is a
I will tell you
no-brainer.
the thought. Yeah, the process I had was that, let's say someone like me who had to pay this fee, right? And had around 7.5 lakhs which he wanted to pay via this, because when you do the admission, right, there's an admission fee and all that first you pay, which comes around to 6.5 lakhs. So let's say you didn't have the Axis Magnus Burgundy, but still, if you book, you take an Axis Atlas, 2,500 miles you get there. You hit those bonuses, that 2,500, then 2,500. So basically 7,500 miles you're accumulating through your milestone benefits and the signing up for the card. And then there is an extra 15,000 which you get by spending 7.5 lakh at base rate of 4%, right? Still, you will end up with close to 45,000 miles which you transfer to Accor will easily give you a value of 60
Easily. Yeah.
65,000,
Agreed.
right? So my point is that and that I how I look at it is that there are two games that you play here when you are in this journey, right? One is your spending game, one is your redemption game. So based on how strong your redemption game is, your risk appetite in your spending game, that paying that 1% surcharge, will be more easier to you, because you know that the value you will be extracting in your redemption will be far more than what you're paying here.
So, summarizing, I think very important for people to note who are tuning into this episode. We are talking about cards for travel fanatics. These are top five cards or top cards that we're discussing in this episode for travel fanatics. So, if you don't enjoy travel, this might not necessarily be the right set of cards for you. We'll probably have to rethink that and come back to you. But again, just a word of caution there. This is for card fanatics who enjoy travel. One more sweet spot before we move on to the next card that we missed, I think, highlighting, which is one of the most obvious ones in Axis Magnus Burgundy, is using Traveledge for all your travel bookings. So, when you're booking flights, you get 30% back, which is insane. 30% back in the form of points is a no-brainer. Imagine you're booking a flight worth 10,000 rupees and you get 3,000 back. Imagine you're booking a family vacation, an international vacation where you're going to a destination, average ticket price is, let's say, 40,000 rupees. Multiply that by 4, that's 1,60,000 rupees. And then you're getting 48,000 rupees back. 48,000 points back. That's insane, right? So again, the Magnus Burgundy allows you to do this. It's a fantastic card. I think we've summarized.
Adil, sorry, one question I have for you. Like, because I spoke about accessibility to this card, if you
Yeah.
cannot get access to Magnus Burgundy, does it make sense to have the plain Magnus as well? Because it also has the AEP feature. Was another question that was hitting my mind. Like, what do you think?
I'd rather have the Atlas because the conversion is way better.
Okay.
Also, because at Burgundy, I think what happens is we get an 80% conversion, a 5:4, while at Magnus you have a 40% conversion, and a 40% conversion is a very different game when compared to 80%, especially keeping AEP in mind as well. I would say get the Atlas, and then I think I would probably say try for the Infinia if you can. If you can't, maybe you can look at other options.
But the maths that Ritwichit spoke about, wouldn't that math still work out better with the Magnus versus the Atlas? With an AP of 18.5 lakhs at a 5 to 2?
In my case, I think it would make sense, because you will get 7, so your reward rate will get halved, right? So what you were AP 14% will become 7, your base 4.8 will become 2.4. So I think the calculation that we did, I ended up earning 2.5 lakhs points, 1.25 kind of points I would have got, which I think which
Is still far better than we're still far better than
So
Atlas.
Yeah,
Got it.
close to that. I think there will be a gap of around 30,000 miles, if I'm not
Exactly.
wrong. If we just consider this transaction, or this amount
So my
at
point
place.
was that even for a large 2-3 transactions, if you have the plain Magnus, also
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense. If
that could be one. The other thing that I had in mind is have a combination of platinum travel from Amex and Axis. That makes it a killer combo.
The only thing that will change in this, at least I'll talk about this scenario, is because I did consider completing my milestone using in this transaction itself.
No, so for Amex, I think you should think about is using it for tax payments, because on Axis you don't have the ability to make tax payments.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm saying in this scenario, when
Yeah.
I did consider, making like out of this, because 4 lakh for me is that no brainer that I want to do, but I couldn't, because then the math was around 2.78%. So then the whole math was failing. So
with Amex, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, for most of the things, you will get points, and the best part about Platinum Travel is like the milestone
Yeah,
completion and the versatility of Amex points.
true,
So, anyways, this is a good discussion on Axis. Great
true.
discussion on Axis. Let's close off Axis with that. Let's come to Atlas. And Dhimant, let's start with you. What is Atlas great for? Where should people spend their money? Why should they spend? Where should they not spend? And then Ritwichit can chime in with his thought.
Yeah, I think we should keep it simple for Atlas. I think Atlas makes most sense when you're using it for travel. It's a pure play travel card in that sense. It gives you 5 times the multiple of the points that you would have used for normal spend. So if your normal spends, you get, let's say, uh, uh, 4% back. For travel you would get, let's say, 10, right, is what my calculation says, right? So basically if you're using it for, let's say, direct booking on Air India, Vistara, erstwhile Vistara, any Accor hotel, any Marriott hotel, and you don't want to use the OTA platforms, right? So that is where I think Atlas makes more sense, right? So it's a travel card because you get multipliers when you spend it on travel. For every 100 rupees spent, you get 5 edge miles, and which
Mhm.
converts into 10 partner miles, right? That's the math. So it's 10% actually, 10% returns. Uh, that's the sweetest spot. Uh, Please keep in mind that all the exclusions that apply to Magnus Burgundy also apply to Atlas. So there is no sweet spot in terms of saying ki tax you can pay by Atlas, because whatever is excluded from Magnus Burgundy is also almost excluded from Atlas, right? So in my head, the sweet spot is the travel spend. But here's the thing: even for any basic spend, a 4% return rate is unheard of, right? So, like, if I were to get my first card today, and if I was 10 years back in my career, I would still get the Atlas as my first card. It's a no-brainer. Plus, it's on Visa platform. Its acceptability is extremely high versus the Plat Travel, which I would have recommended. The problem with Plat Travel is also a lot of places it doesn't get
Yeah,
accepted. And wherever there is a surcharge, the surcharge of an Amex card is always double, or at least, like, Amex, they case small merchants will see at you as if you come from some other country, right? So from
yeah.
that sense, Atlas is like anybody's first card with a great reward rate. Let's compare it to Regalia, right? It's a no-brainer. Like, I would say, don't even look at the Regalia if you're comparing it with Atlas, right? So that's my 2 cents.
What I would like to say in these are 2 points, right? One is that first of all, when people, like Diman mentioned, the best use case is that when you are booking an Indigo flight, for example, rather than booking it when you're directly booking on the site, right? You are getting those 5 miles, which eventually get converted into 10 miles. Uh, so the reward rate is almost effective as 10% when you're traveling, right? If you consider after conversion, not before conversion. So, but the only sometimes a caution which I want to give people is that please try and understand that this is when you are using it on the portal of those Indigo's website, right? Sometimes people ended up speaking, oh, हम तो flights book कर रहे हैं. So even if you're doing it through Make My Trip or your Clear Trip or any other platform, we should get those miles. So I think this is just one caution that I would suggest people. And one thing I suggest is that we spoke about people not having access, or people who are not even in this game and want to get complexed in terms of having the Burgundy and the Infinias of the world. But if you are traveling, taking a vacation, a four member family taking a vacation, which will easily cost you 1.5 2 lakhs if you're doing an international vacation or making the bookings from India, right? Have that card in your wallet for any travel spends that you do. If you're going to a hotel, right, if you're staying at a property, you have incidentals which you can kind of, which are charged to your room, and you have to settle that out. That card should become that wherever I'm traveling, I should be having that card in my wallet, right? And to me, from if you ask me, because I know that Burgundy and Infinia, not everyone will have access to, this is the first card I suggest to people after Amex, and this and the Amex Plat Travel.
If you put last episode and this episode together, like, the best way to experience Accor is this: get an Atlas. You are getting 18% back when you spend on travel, and then redeem it at Accor. So from that sense, and also, by the way, Adil, you forgot the sign up bonus, right? The sign up bonus itself is 5,000 partner miles,
9,000
and
rupees.
if you want to take a free night with Accor, like, you can do that with just the sign up bonus. You don't even need to earn points.
Yes.
By the way, very
Right.
interesting point. One more use case which we have missed, I think, is a lot of hotels which have restaurants also get sometimes
Right.
classified as hotels, and you get those points. So, for example, there's a very popular hotel in restaurant in Bangalore, which we go regularly to. He has a MCC of a hotel, and we end up getting 10. So, we have a double reason of going there now, right? So, those are exceptions. You will never know it, but you will be pleasantly surprised sometimes on these edge miles.
Cool. Let's wrap up. Let's wrap up Axis. Let's come to HDFC.
Hey, Adil, sorry, I'm really sorry to break you, but one thing we haven't covered and we should cover before we move to Axis is the biggest advantage of the Axis ecosystem is the number of travel partners that they have. And it's extremely critical.
And the
And the
conversion ratio
conversion
you get.
ratio, I think it's extremely critical to cover that. Let me just quickly cover that. They have the highest number of airline and hotel partners. We will put up a list on the show notes or somewhere on the screen at this point of time, telling you which partners we have. They have, but they have the largest number. Number one. Number two, the ratio for Magnus Burgundy, which we spoke about, is 5:4. Right, so every 5 points earn you 4 reward points of the partner, and for Atlas it is 1:2. So one edge mile equal to 2 partner miles. So be very smart about how to maximize this. And the last thing is the disadvantage. None of these transfers are immediate. So please do not think that you find a seat, you convert it, and immediately you will book it. For example, partners like Jal take 15 to 17 days to transfer this partner points, and there are partners which happens on every Wednesday, for example. Right, so I think it's Chris Flyer or Vistara, maybe, right, one of the partners. So none of these partners are transferred. The miles are not transferred immediately.
Yeah, great points. I think Chris Flyers particularly transfers happen in 72 hours at max when it comes to access. But there are some partners like you said, Dhimant, who will happen every Wednesday. Some take 15 days, but more often than not, as a thumb rule, keep at least 72 hours for your transfers. 72 hours should be enough for most of the transfers, but specific ones might take longer. So be prepared for that as you maximize your game. But yeah, great point that Axis has got the biggest bouquet of partners to transfer your points and miles. Let's come to the crown jewel of the India market that people absolutely adore and love. It's called the Infinia. Let's talk about Infinia. Ritwichit, let's start with your thoughts.
So Infinia, I think for me, especially after that gifter devaluation that happens at Axis, because in the glorious days of Axis Magnus, of course, your Infinia gifters, if you had a limited amount to spend that you do, right, you would always do it to a Axis Magnus because it was also covering your 1 lakh milestone at that time. But with this recent Axis devaluation, series of devaluations, and now even gifter, you don't get accelerated rewards, and the program has become very useless kind of. So I think for me the biggest use is that, right? And then the smart buy, for me, the point that you have for domestic travel, it's and recently earlier it was very difficult to book flights. For me, the experiences were always a little bad in terms of how the whole experiences were, in terms of how you are navigating through the website. But now via coming to Pays app and all, the whole booking a reward flight via points has really become very very pleasant. I should say that. And I think Infinia is as a card, apart from just there are so many things of Infinia that you don't explore. There are 2+1 of ITC, which it comes with 1+1 buffet that you get, right? I don't know why, but I've still never used that 1+1 buffet till date, right? And one bummer for me in Infinia is because I do have a considerable amount of rent spend. Uh, that is now excluded, right? It doesn't charge you. The first transaction is free, but you don't get points for that. So that was a bummer for me. But luckily, Burgundy is still there. So yeah, for me, the major uses of Infinia is you that 5x, and recently I think some of us also experienced the 10x mantra offer which came in, right? So I think that is really really cool. And so if you do the math, you're booking a 10,000 ka flight, and if 70,000 of it you can pay via points, for the remaining 3,000 also that you're putting in, right, you are getting 16% return, right? So the overall math is just too good for you to not book flights using Infinia. Yeah.
I think the role, I'll just define quickly the role of Infinia, the card in my pocket or my portfolio. It's very simple. It's a 16.6% card return card for me. Whatever, like
Yeah.
I buy Swiggy, Amazon, Big Basket, Flipkart.
Yeah.
and a few other smaller vouchers based on use case. This four I mentioned are every month, and the rest are like depending on the use case, right? So uh, I don't think the 16.6% reward rate on these brands is matched anywhere. So for me, this is a no-brainer. That's what I use this card for. The other place I use this card for is, and again, sounds like a very chindi thing to do, but anywhere I think the multiples are 150, I use this card because this reward rate is 155 points for 150. So that's something that
Yeah,
by subconsciously it happens to me, right? Keep Infinia nikal diya.
yeah.
And sometimes you have this as a person who likes collecting cards like Adil. Sometimes you miss not swiping the Infinia, right? कि मतलब offline swipe ही नहीं हो रहा
वो
आजकल.
मैथ चलता रहता है
हाँ
ना दिमाग में वो कि 100 पे एटलस 150 पे इन्फिनिया
हाँ
200
एग्जैक्टली
पे
नहीं बट इवन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट
200
अपार्ट फ्रॉम
पे
दैट
मैग्नस
समटाइम्स यू आल्सो फील बैड कि मतलब बहुत टाइम से इन्फिनिया स्वाइप ही नहीं किया लाइक तो वो कभी कभी वो भी रीजन से आई स्वाइप इट मतलब ठीक है चलो यार कि लेट्स स्वाइप इट बट अदरवाइज दैट्स वन सेकंड थिंग अगेन इन द सेम फ्रेमवर्क दैट वी स्पोक अबाउट highly difficult to get that card right so HDFC has protected this card with its life for whatever reason and
I'll give you one
yeah.
I'll give you अभी हम लोग का there was this alum event that was happening right at college and they were giving so Dhimant sir you will remember right that the colleges IMs and all had this Diners Black का partnership where you will get your name embedded on वो so here Diners Black में they were asking कि आपका placement में package what's your package right based on that we'll get Diners Black and when I told them I have Infinia I can tell you that they were like either this guy is lying or why is this guy even studying to get a job right that is the look that people will give you and now especially in the current changes which HDFC have made I think it's like 5 lakh income in hand that is what that guy told me for you to get Infinia so I tell people that and a lot of people get FOMO of not getting
No, but
Infinia like I
but
have a
but
couple of
I'm telling you, I have a personal grudge on this, and I'm very very angry with HDFC on this. And I told this to the relationship manager also. I was
uh,
eligible for that MDI alumni return on my card.
uh,
They didn't give me that, and
right
I knew many people who had both the cards, Infinia and Diners,
okay
right? So they refused to give me that
okay
card. I told me it's sentimental thing for me because I want a one
yeah
card which has my college name on it. You cannot deny me that
yeah
card. They did not give me that card. And to take revenge, I got another Diners Black from them, which obviously we all know is the current favorite, the Biz Black card, right? But on a very serious note, I mean, I don't know why they're protecting these cards so much. Like, I genuinely don't think it's worth protecting these cards that much because HDFC has so many good controls that they've put up to ensure that people don't misuse the card. The tech is far superior than, let's say, the other bank that we were speaking about. And I don't think they should do this, is what I feel. And if they are doing this, then they should have a -1 card better than Regalia, which is available for people to use. Because give me a card which gives me at least 10% back on vouchers, if not 16%. But why leave people out is my point, right? So I genuinely think that's what I feel
यार
in HDFC at
16%
least.
भी बहुत अच्छा है धीमन जब तक चल रहा है चलने दो यू नो और तो 10% भी हम ले लेंगे जब भी मिलेगा आई थिंक मेक हे व्हाइल द सन शाइन्स इज व्हाट वी शुड लिव
I think Infinia till last year was also very good in terms of because you get one, you was getting 1:1 accord transfer also, right? So that devaluation which happened that it 1:2 0.5. So that's why you don't look at Infinia from earning partner miles because like all you Atlas mein when you are getting 1:2, which is your 4%, right? Infinia mein you will get 1.6% partner miles, right? If you convert the current conversion. So I think that also has affected. And Dhiman rightly pointed out that while devaluing and still keeping it so safeguarded, that logic I also don't understand. And now the talks of Infinia Reserve, right? Bap re bap.
Yes. Summarizing, I think summarizing one of the learnings that I have had is when you compare the Axis table to the Infinia table. I think Infinia points are great for those who just want a no nonsense experience. Meaning, you want to book a flight from Bombay to Delhi or Bangalore to Delhi. You want to book economy tickets. You want to book tickets worth 10,000 rupees. Go to the SmartBuy portal, use your points for cash, finish it out. You want to book a hotel, use your points for cash, finish it out. You get 1 rupee a point. Now, you can't do that on Axis. In Axis, your point per point, I think, is 20 paisa, if I'm not mistaken, right? So then the value of your points really diminishes. So if you're the kinds who wants easy, no nonsense revenue bookings, then Infinia is a great card. Simple, no transfer No waiting, no headache, no award check availability. Just go ahead and book, normal tickets. So you can use Infinia that way. Access cards, you can use it, but you'll get very little value. So we don't recommend doing that at all.
But Adil, again, covering the 2 points that we missed earlier on Axis as well. One is the number of travel partners, less number of travel partners compared to Axis.
Agreed, but
Yeah.
if you want a booking revenue, transfer partners की बात नहीं.
Yeah. No. I was talking about I
Yeah.
was talking about the transfer wala part. Second was the ratio is lower in most of the cases, minus a few partners like Chris Flyer, where it is actually better, probably or equal. And the third thing, yeah, correct. And the third thing, Adil, which again is a debatable thing, right? Which I spoke about on the start also, is Infinia actually more of a travel card than a lot of other so-called travel cards? Because the 5x, 10x that you book using SmartBuy, you can book.
Absolutely.
It's a SmartBuy is a great platform. आपको हमेशा 5x 10x मिलेगा. 10x on I think hotels is 10x, right? If I'm not
Hotels is 10x. Just keep in mind that whenever you're booking, you can get a maximum of 7,500 points a day, and you can get a maximum of 15,000 points a month. Meaning, you cannot spend, if you spend more than 56,000 rupees for a particular day, then the max points you will get back is 7,500.
I actually thought that the 7,500 daily limit was taken away.
I'm not sure. Let's just double check. But
Okay.
to my knowledge, it exists. But
Yeah,
so
sure.
when I'm planning my purchases, I always ensure that I don't make a smart buy transaction or a gifted transaction that's ever 56,000 or above. I break it into 2 days. In fact, I do it alternate days just to ensure that there is no hassle and I get my points back. So there is a cap in Infinia. You can get 15,000 bonus points a month. Beyond that, you will not get bonus points. So think about that when you're planning your purchases. With that, we'll bring this one to a close. So
Awesome.
we're done with HDFC, we're done with Axis. Let's come to the American Express Platinum Travel Card. Let's talk about that. Start with you, Dhimant.
Yeah, the Platinum Travel is the number 2 card that I recommend anybody to have it in their portfolio. If you're listening and you don't have a travel card in your portfolio, get the Atlas and then get the Amex Plat Travel, or get both. Considering both of them put together will be 5,000 plus 3,500 as taxes, plus taxes. It's a great combination. If you want to spend less than 10,000 rupees and get 2 cards, this is the 2 cards that you should have. Coming to quickly Amex Plat Travel, the construct is very simple. You spend 4 lakh rupees a year to maximize, and then you put the card away and you back in your wallet. Right? That's what most of the people do. Obviously, you can find more use cases where Amex has discounts or whatever, further cashbacks, etc. That's a separate point. And to make it sweet, specific periods of the year, Amex runs additional offers saying if you spend this much money in this much time, and these are mostly personalized offers, right? So a lot of smart people also wait for that offers to double dip, right? So for example, in November there'll be an offer saying you spend 2 lakh rupees and get some extra vouchers, and that is the time when you make the most use of it, right? So one way of doing it is your quota of 4 lakh resets, you spend it all at one go and finish it off, which is one sweet way of doing it, because that takes away the cognitive load of saying कि अब मुझे Amex के बारे में सोचना ही नहीं है. That gives you let's say around, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the exact number right now, but around 48,000 MR is what you earn if you spend 4 lakh rupees, and you also and you get a Taj ka voucher, and that's what you get for the entire 4 lakh spend. The second good way of doing it is do the first milestone, which is 1.9 lakhs, get partly the MR in your account, wait for that double dip offer to come in. That's what I do most of the time, because Diwali is the time period where they start these offers, and then make the remaining spend, right? So this is what I do generally, but again, it's up to you guys how you use the card. But sweet spot is 4 lakh rupees spend karo, get the 48,000 MR. And beauty of Amex is all of the partners that they have, they're either at a good conversion ratio like Marriott Bonvoy, one of the things. Second is that they have instant transfers, which is used as great convenience there, that are for times when you're not worried about the ratio, you're worried about getting those points, right? And the third thing, which is sweet, is Marriott Bonvoy is an inbuilt hack where you transfer it to Marriott Bonvoy, and it unlocks few more travel partners like United and a few other partners via Marriott Bonvoy, right? So this is in nutshell how I look at the Platinum Travel Card.
Ritwichit?
So I think more or less Dimant has covered what are the use cases of it, right? But one thing is that when people, as we are responsibly adding cautions to every card, and these are something which the people who are sitting on this podcast and the people we interact with generally would not even consider, that people don't know that they need to call Amex for getting those extra
Yeah.
miles and all, right? You guys will not believe there were like at least three people in my office before who had this card for a couple of years. Didn't know that I got them those X miles, and precisely your favorite properties, JW Goldsher, I got booked for them, and they still thank me till day about it. So I think just one caution, please do and do know that you will have to call them once you have completed the milestone. And the Taj voucher thing is very great. The great thing which the whole Amex to Marriott to other airlines like American Advantage, for example, I have this, as Adil mentioned, I have this seats.aero पे खेलता हूँ मैं चीज़ों के साथ, right? So I like understanding where the sweet spots are. And I remember the Etihad brought in the A380s back last year with the AUH to London, right? And I was discussing with Al sir, what will be the cheapest way to fly this, right? Then I discovered that on American Advantage, earlier, now though they only give the seats for 1 month, earlier Etihad ka all the availability was there on American Advantage. So that was 42,500, right? Now if you're a normal person which you're not informed about these things, you would say our American Advantage has no partners with the Indian credit card. So basically this option is out of the window, right? But when you know this route, you know that basically on an A380, that 42,500, which will convert into your 1,000, 1,25,000 points, is your Bombay to Bangalore, sorry, Bangalore to London business class ticket. Wherein the DXB version, the AUH to LHR, is on first on business class. So I think knowing about these things and this kind of feasibility, flexibility which Amex gives you is the reason you should have this card. And as Dhiman rightly mentioned, that you are, if you are not getting those Burgundies, Infinias, have a Amex Gold charge. Do a 6,000 ka transaction every month. Sorry, 6,000. Get those 1,600 points, which you get on if you are doing it on a reward multiplier. So the whole thing, which I think all of you are trying to say, or you are trying to point out, and I've watched every episode of the podcast before also, is that it's not a gatekeepers नहीं है this इस दुनिया के. There are things which you can access, there are cards which you can start with. It will start with experiences that you want to have, and Amex Plat Travel is one of those cards. As Adil mentioned, that that Sheraton property at Mahabalipuram is something which is on my list for quite long time, right? I want to do that. And 4 lakh spend on Amex, you can easily do that for 2 days if I'm not wrong, right?
You can, yeah, you can do it for 3 nights actually if you
Okay.
optimize it.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. I think we're almost at the cusp of time to bring this home. Quick 30-second advice for anyone starting their credit card journey in 2025. Dhimant, start with you.
I think get two cards, Atlas and Plat Travel. Make don't chase the too expensive cards, too complex cards. I feel some of the cards that we discussed are a little complex. I think these two cards are no brainers. And to add to this, both my suggestion to, because it's a travel episode, please also get the Accor Plus, right? So this three is a deadly combination, and if you put all the three together, you will be able to explore few airlines, Taj, Accor, and probably domestic flights as well. I think so. This is a one fits all solution for most of the people. For specific instances, we are going to send out that infographic if possible, which will help you decide which card is right for you. But my starter advice would be to get these two cards.
Ritwichit, your advice?
I will say first, if you're not in the on this journey, you're starting your journey, right? Uh, the cards Dhimant has already recommended. My recommendations are also the same, right? I will say don't aim for those ultra luxurious vacation which people generally give you FOMO by posting it on social media. There are ways to do it. You will also get there, right? Do that first redemption, and then understand that there are ways which you can optimize your spends, and your everyday spends will become a gateway for your dream vacations. Keep that thing in mind. Start using this. Have that first redemption. We have this habit of holding points. oh no, 2 years we will use Amex Plat Travel, we will get 80,000 points, then Marriott offer will come. There are so many maybes which people plan things with, and eventually Marriott will not give the offer. Amex Marriott 1:1 will get, uh, may get devalued. Because this is I learned from Adil, to be honest, Dhimant. I remember I had like United Miles, because when the Axis devaluation happened and we were making those transfers, I had around 150,000 miles in and I was in Europe last year, and my return flight was booked from Amsterdam KLM to directly Bangalore, right? And Lufthansa last first class seats, last moment, right? And I saw that opening of 71.5 pay, and as it is, if you're like a limousine, sorry, a Porsche coming to pick you up, right, at an airport, and you're not going via the boarding gate, is something which was like Lufthansa first experience was on top of my head. But I was like, I discussed with my wife, yeah, itne mein to we will come 2 times economy and all that, right? And I did that. I didn't take that redemption. And today that redemption is 1,40,000 points or something like that. I don't remember the point, but I know the economy has become 55,000 points, right? So I think take those, don't hoard points, earn and burn them, have those experiences of your life, and get started on the journey if you are
I will
not
just
yet.
add the HDFC Marriott also as my third recommendation as a third card,
Yeah.
because
That I think is one of the recommendations both
yeah,
of you have given me also.
please
As
get
soon
it.
as I start earning, so I'll gonna get that also.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. And with that, that's a wrap for episode 4. Thank you, Dhimant, Ritwichit, for sharing your strategies, stories, tips that make our world of points and miles so exciting. Before we go, don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's conversation, share it with a fellow traveler or someone who's just getting started in this game of points and miles. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. What's been your ultimate points story, redemption, or dream? Drop us a message, tag us online. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, keep earning, keep burning, keep redeeming, and most importantly, keep dreaming of that next big adventure. This is the Great Indian Points and Miles Show.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow. All aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Zero to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo. Hidden treasures in every flight. Nights in places that feel so right. From deserts to the city lights. Get set, steal those dazzling sights. Miles stack up each passing day. Rewards come back in a million ways. In this game you want to play the Great Indian Adventure, yay! Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.